What's up guys, Sarah Benzer here for another video. As usual, I'm here with my good friend Ty. Sorry about the 1 week pause. It's actually the longest break I think I've taken since making this channel, but I was really sick, so unfortunately I couldn't film. I want to continue on the Neon Belly segment that I was doing because I got so many messages and comments asking different questions about it. I haven't done too many no-gi videos on this channel. I think I may have only done one, but today I wanted to talk about some of my favorite chokes and attacks from the Neon Belly in no-gi. Right? So some things definitely change in this particular position when we're doing it in no-gi as opposed to gi. Because my favorite chokes in the gi are the cross collar, the baseball bat, the Ezekiel. So we kind of lose all of those. If you're interested in gi chokes, I made a video on all my favorite gi chokes from Neon Belly. I'll link it above and in the description. And I also filmed a bunch of different arm bars, concepts, and positions on Neon Belly. That was my favorite video to date that translates to both gi and no-gi. So if you want to check that out, I definitely recommend that. But today's going to be chokes. We're going to look at the north-south choke, the guillotine, high elbow guillotine, maybe arm in, and then a couple of baseball bat choke variations that you don't need a gi for. So let's get right into it. So guys, let's move over here. Basically, when we're, let's turn this way. When we're in Neon Belly and we have our opponent here without a gi, you don't have as much control because you can't like grab onto the collars into the gi. So for the same reasons that I use Neon Belly and gi, I use them in no-gi. I'll basically go over that very quickly for those of you that haven't been following along, but I'm a very small person. I'm a light featherweight competitor, so in order for me to attack, I like to attack from the Neon Belly because I can create movement and mobility. And with the mobility, I can capitalize on my opponent exposing their limbs and neck for me. What I mean by that is I don't have to pry things. I don't have to force Ty's arm across his body to get the arm triangle. I don't have to force him to push down. What I'm trying to do by creating these movements is utilize my mobility so that my opponent exposes himself. I try to use minimal exertion and I try to attack things that are given to me. So for example, if I'm here with Ty, we're in side control. He's not giving me anything. He's not moving, right? How do I know that? Because he's being purely defensive. He's in prayer position. He's not trying to explode. He's not bridging. He's not doing anything. So this indicates to me that my opponent is complacent. This indicates to me that I can now create movement and maybe he'll expose himself. So one of the things I like to do, both in gi and no-gi, is if he's doing this, I just put my hands on the mat and I just pop up to Neon Belly. Oftentimes when I pop up to Neon Belly, we see a lot of limb exposure. He might push on my chest. I can go for the arm lock here, right? He might push on my knee and open this. I can go here for the underhook and start to attack the Kimura. I made a video on all that, and that translates to both gi and no-gi, so like I said, I'll link that. Today we're going to look at chokes. Another reason that we might encounter the Neon Belly position with a lot of transitions is sometimes when I'm here passing the guard in no-gi, right, I move, I pass this way, I come to the Neon Belly, and he starts to open himself up. So, let's move this way. So today I want to look at some of these attacks. The first one, being one of my favorite, is the guillotine. So I made a video going over the high elbow guillotine. I'm going to link that in the description as well, where I really break down all of the little things. Today I'm going to show you the setup, talk about the finishing mechanics, but I'm not going to go crazy into detail. So when I go into Neon Belly, oftentimes what ends up happening is my opponent pushes on my knee, just like this. When he does that, he's giving me a little bit of neck exposure. So this is a very unorthodox approach to the guillotine, but it's one of my favorite. So he's here pushing on my knee. Look what I'm going to do. I'm going to swim my hand in front of his head, and I'm going to dive myself forward using my hand as base, wrapping his neck, and I'm going to allow him to get the quarter guard. So it's going to be like this. So that's the movement. We want it to be fluid and subtle. So we're here, we popped up to Neon Belly, he's pushing. Now, very important, I'm using this free hand as base. I'm wrapping with my right hand, but I'm also sitting to a hip. I'm in kind of a single hip position, meaning that I'm trying to lean my weight onto my right hip, more specifically here, my ribs. I want my ribs to push Ty's face this way, right? So notice that when he starts to push, I come here, I dive deep, and look, I fall with my ribs here. Now, my elbow and my ribs are creating compression onto his face, right? Right here. This allows me to keep his neck stationary, so he's not able to move it as freely. If I don't have this pressure, he can move his neck and tuck his chin, right? But if I get here, it's hard for him to move his neck. See? So now what I would do is I have my left hand, or left leg is base, left hand is base. I'm going to get really tight on this single hip position, and my left hand is going to reach for my hand. And I'm going to make a grip. Now I have the option to finish from here with the high elbow by pulling up, or if my opponent rolls me, I'm here, I crunch up, and I finish from here. So what's my grip position? I'm gripping like this, guys. Okay, so I want to grip here and pull up. So again, let's turn this way again. I'm here, I was in side control, my opponent wasn't giving me much, I pop up, he pushes on my knee. I come here and here. So guys, look, see how I'm pushing my hip onto him? I don't want to be here. This leg needs to be up, and I have to be pushing. Okay, now this hand grabs the grip, like this, okay? And I can go for the finish here, right? And if he rolls me, no problem. I'll finish here. Try to throw your leg up as high onto his back as possible. Try to crunch your head to your knee. Try to bring your elbow up and close the space. Even if he comes all the way to his knees, just like so. I don't want to be flat, guys. I want to be crunched up. Okay? I have to use my core strength to really crunch up. I want to not be able to see the back of his head, so I want to be here like this. And then I can get the finish. Okay? All too often I see people doing high elbow guillotines, and they're flat. You want to crunch everything up and just make yourself super tight like this, and then pull up on this grip as you crunch into your opponent a little bit more. So I love this technique from knee on belly, and it's pretty versatile because I do it from knee cut as well. So for example, sometimes I'm here passing the guard like this, I'll just come through, rack, and come into this position. Once I get my ribs heavy on his head, I can kind of differentiate what I do. I can come through here, I can finish here like this, right? If he rolls me over again, right? I finish here like this. So we have a bunch of different finishing positions, and that setup in no-gi particularly is pretty good. I use it all the time. It's something I wouldn't really recommend doing if it's a points competition because you don't want to give up the top position. But if you're rolling around in the gym, it's a really sneaky choke. So next, let's look at something that's not as risky, which is a no-gi baseball bat. So have your head over here. So this is kind of a gimmicky choke, and it's not the highest percentage choke. It can open other things, but it definitely works. I've definitely finished it at least 50 times in the last like 10 years. So what it is there's two variations to do an elbow-to-elbow choking mechanism, very similar to a baseball bat choke. If you look at a baseball bat choke, we grab the gi and we start to touch our elbows together. And that's kind of the finishing mechanism, right? We close that hole. Now, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to use no gi grips. So look, I'm here. In my last video, I talked about this a little, but I like to play a hybrid knee on belly position. So I'm here and here, and I like to put my knee up like this. When I do this, it allows me to set up this grip, where I'm going to bring my hand underneath Ty's forearm, and I'm going to grab my own hand, palm to palm, with no thumbs. So I don't use my thumbs, I'm here, okay? Like this. My shoulder's still in his face, so I can open his neck a little bit. For the sake of demonstration, I'm looking up so you guys can hear me. So I grab this grip. Okay, now I have two options. I can posture up and finish, or I can stay here. How do I finish? So one hand's facing that way, one hand's facing this way. I can posture up that leg, and then I'm going to bring my forearm, my right forearm is going to slide across his neck, and I'm going to try to touch my elbows together as I pull his neck up. It's not much of a neck crank. It should be a trachea choke, so I should pull his neck up, then push down. As I push down, guys, I lower my head. I lower my center of gravity like so. Okay, and then I push in, and I squeeze. I've seen this same choke done with a C-cup grip, right? I've seen people do this, like so, and I've seen them do it this way too. It's personal preference, guys. I don't like when people use, like, oh, this is the only way to do it. There's different ways. I've seen people use this grip, just like with the high elbow. I've seen people finish the high elbow with different grips. It's the same thing. I like to use this palm-to-palm grip because I feel like I have really good control. I can come here and I can squeeze. I've seen people do this C-cup grip. Again, I'm just using my fingers now. I bring them down and I squeeze, right? I've seen it this way and I squeeze. So the idea of it, though, is what's more important than the actual technical application. And the idea of it is that I'm bringing my elbows together. I mean, you could probably choke somebody for all you care if you just grab your hands and just start to squeeze them in any way, shape, or form. But obviously, there's going to be better gripping methods. So that's a really sneaky choke. I do it all the time because people don't expect it. Right? I'm here. I'm tight on side control. They're not moving. Right? I put my knee on the stomach to get ready. I bring this hand through. I come through like this. Posture and go. And then I squeeze. And I get the finish a lot. I apply that quickly. I apply it hard. Why? Because it's like a surprise choke, kind of like in Ezekiel. They panic because it's trachea damage. So, the next thing we're going to look at is a little bit more unorthodox again, but an amazing setup that I also use all the time, and it's going to be for a north-south choke. The north-south choke, in my opinion, is probably the choke that I see upper belts mess up the most, right? They apply it all the time, and typically when they apply it, it's a neck crank. There's nothing wrong with that, guys. I'm not a guy that says, oh, if it's a neck crank, like that's douchey or anything. Look, if somebody's cranking your neck, tap. Trust me. I've been on the receiving end of like Bernardo's north-south. Even if it's not the most perfect choke at the time because we've been scrambling, I'm going to tap for sure because he's going to take my head off. So that's kind of the idea with this. We want to try to get as close to a choke as possible, and the north-south is something I see a lot of people mess up. So let's look at it. So Ty's going to be here, and I'm knee on belly. Now look, guys, when I'm knee on belly, it's very often somebody will push on my knee. So again, just like with the guillotine, when they push on my knee, he exposes his neck, okay? So I only do this on this side because I like to use my right hand to choke, but you can practice on both sides. So when he's pushing on my knee, look what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to bring this leg down, and I'm going to wrap his head opposite of how I wrap with the guillotine. So with the guillotine, I came around Ty's left ear. This time I'm going to go around his right ear. So he's pushing, and I do this. I use this hand for base, and I do this. But guys, very important, let's turn. Do you see how my ribs are crushing his face again? I need to put my ribs on his head, guys. It's very important that I make Ty look this way. Okay, so I'm in this position, I'm putting pressure. My hand is wrapped. I want the back of Ty's neck right at the crook of my elbow. I don't want to be shallow. So again, I was here and here, and look, guys, this is the transition. I reach across, right knee comes down, I go underneath, look how deep I am. And now look, I sit to my right hip, and my ribs are crushing his face. So again, I'm in that single hip position. But you can be quick with this, right? You can drill that movement. He pushes. Right? I'm here. He pushes. See how I move myself back? Okay? Let's move forward just a little bit. So now, guys, the way that I want to finish is in this position I can see my hand. Okay? So like with the guillotine grip, I'm going to grab my hand. And then look, I'm going to scissor my legs. Okay? Pushing into Ty a little bit. So I'm here, I scissor my legs, I push him to Ty, and now I'm going to melt my hip down to the mat, and I'm going to bring my head to his shoulder. And now I'm going to scoot down, 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 down. And then I'm going to dip my shoulder into his neck. And he taps. So the north-south should take almost no strength when applied properly. Your choking mechanism is your shoulder. You're going to dip your shoulder into your partner's trachea as you pull up a little. You're not trying to squeeze the muscles on the back of the neck. You're trying to find the choking mechanism. Now, when I teach this choke, I go around the class when my students are in the proper position and I push on their shoulder, and they always get the choking tap. Always. I'll walk by and I'll pull their legs back and I'll push onto their shoulder. This is something that I'm pretty sure Marcelo Garcia does. My old coach Con Ying used to do this to everybody. It's something that I've learned. It's kind of trickled down, but it's a game changer. Because one thing that a lot of people do wrong, let's go here again, is look, when they do this choke, so boom, here, 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 they never melt too far. Oh, another thing that's very important, guys, I have to get my hand in front of his shoulder, and I'm making that same guillotine grip. Now look, when I melt down, a lot of people try to apply the choke when their head is on their opponent's chest like this, and they squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And you'll get the tap like that most of the time if you're stronger and bigger than the guy. But if they're the same size, it's going to be hard. And what's wrong? My body positioning is off. Why? My head should not be at his chest. My head should be at about his head, like this. You see how I move myself way off? Now my head is about at his shoulder. That's more proper. I don't want my head way up here. I want to move down, 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 and then I want to just dip my shoulder and get the tap. You see how I start to turn this shoulder in, right? I start to turn that right shoulder in. So it's very important that you drill the technique and try to do it properly, because then when you apply it, even if it's not the most perfect choke, it's still going to apply more pressure to the neck and potentially choke your opponent. So the big thing is the setup. So again, I'm here, right, in the knee on stomach. I put my hand on the mat, I reach, and I do that hip switch and sit, okay? And the grip is the same. This is the grip. So one more time. I'm here with my opponent. I popped up to knee on belly. He pushed here, here, and here. I'm moving quickly, guys. See how I beat his hand? I grab my hand, I melt, 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 and push my shoulder into his neck. We're gonna save Ty's neck more damage. It's been a rough day with chokes, but guys, thanks so much for watching. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Hit that little notification bell so you can be notified when I make more videos. I do make videos in segments. I try to connect the dots for you guys. And if you guys have any questions, I always try to address them in the comments, so shoot them at me. Please let me know. I'm always happy to help. And thanks so much, guys. Thanks to Ty. Thanks so much for watching, guys. As usual, if you like this content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps me out. Guys.